"The man who used to be my dad gave my son a rock and an iPhone box for his birthday," he said. "Only good boys get toys." Everyone laughed, until I said, "Go ahead, open it, buddy," and everything went quiet. Dad pushed the white box across the table toward my son. "Max." The room got quiet. Everyone was staring at the box like it was something special. Max was smiling, his little hands shaking as he pulled off the wrapping. "Is it really an iPhone?" he asked, sounding amazed. "Open it and see," Dad said, smirking at me. I should have known better. Max opened the box. His smile disappeared. Inside was just a rock, an ugly, dirty rock, like one from the side of the road. Max blinked, confused. "Is this a joke?" Dad leaned back in his chair and laughed loudly. "Well," he said, sipping his coffee like he was proud of himself, "only good boys get toys, right, Max?" For a second, no one said anything, then everyone started laughing. My sister laughed so hard she wiped her eyes. My brother-in-law laughed into his drink. Even my mom giggled and shook her head. But I didn't laugh, and neither did Max. He stared at the rock, then looked at me. His cheeks were red, and his shoulders dropped. He pushed the box away and stayed quiet. I knew that look. I had that same look when I was his age, when Dad used to pull the same mean tricks on me. "Oh come on," Dad said, waving his hand like it was nothing. "It's just a joke, lighten up." "Yeah," my sister added, giving Max a playful nudge. "It's not like that was your real present." But I knew there was no other present. This was it, a cruel joke. A rock in a box and a room full of people laughing at a kid. "Wow," I said softly, "you really went all out this time." Dad just shrugged, like it was no big deal. "Maybe next year he'll show some respect, then he can get the iPhone." That was the moment something changed in me. I looked at Max again, his head down, eyes shiny with tears he wouldn't let fall, and I felt something boiling inside, a feeling that had been growing for years. No more. I looked at my dad, at the people laughing behind their wine glasses, at the ones who thought it was funny to embarrass a child. They didn't know what was coming, but they would. 30 minutes later, no one was laughing. I wish this was the first time something like this had happened, but it wasn't. My dad had always been this way. He never hit me, but he didn't have to. His words were like weapons. His jokes always made to hurt. He called it love, but it always had a cost. "You're not like your brother," he'd say when I got a B in school. "At least you try, that's something, I guess." I spent years trying to make him proud, got a scholarship, worked 3 jobs, started my own company, but he never gave me credit. He called me lucky, not smart, average, not ambitious. Every birthday and holiday, he reminded me I was the family disappointment. I thought having Max might change things. It didn't. Dad barely noticed him, never remembered his birthday, and when he did talk to him, it was always a mean comment. "Time to toughen him up," he said once when Max cried after falling. "You baby him too much." Baby him? I thought. I was trying to raise my son to be kind, not cold, and somehow that was wrong to him. So when he gave Max a rock and laughed at him, something inside me snapped. "You know," I said, standing up, "you act like you're the strong one in this family, the leader, but really, you're just a coward in a cardigan." The laughter stopped. My mom's eyes widened. My sister choked on her wine. Dad leaned back, staring at me like I'd lost my mind. "Watch your mouth," he shouted. "No, you watch yours," I said, stepping closer. "You just humiliated my son in front of everyone. Why, so you could feel powerful again?" "It was a joke," he yelled. "You weren't joking, you were performing, like always. You do this every time you find someone weaker, someone younger, someone who trusts you, and you crush them with a smile on your face." Max was still quiet, his little hand gripping the side of his chair. I looked at him, then turned back to the room. "You all saw it, every single one of you, and you laughed." Silence. I smiled, but there was nothing kind in it. "You want to know what's really funny? I actually brought him an iPhone, the real one. It's in the car. I wanted Dad to have his moment, so I waited." Gasps rippled through the room. That's right. I was going to let him hand it over, thought maybe, just maybe, he'd finally act like a grandfather. I turned to my sister. "But you laughed, Emily, you laughed like it was a comedy show. You, the therapist, should know better." My brother-in-law shifted uncomfortably. He always stayed neutral, like Switzerland, but tonight, the air was too thick even for him. My mom tried to cut in. "Can we not do this now? It's Max's birthday." "Exactly," I snapped, and you all ruined it. I walked out without grabbing my coat, headed to the car, pulled out the actual iPhone box, and walked back in. I handed it to Max. This is for you, from me, because you are a good boy, and don't let anyone, tell you otherwise. He blinked up at me. Thanks, Dad. His voice cracked on the last word, and I nearly broke right there. Then I turned to the room. You had your show, now it's my turn. I pulled out the envelope from my back pocket and dropped it on the table. What's this? Dad asked, eyeing it like it was a bomb. It's the updated power of attorney paperwork. You're not on it anymore. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the house you co-signed on but haven't paid a cent toward. The account you've been helping manage for Max's college fund, it's done. All of it. You can't just. I can. And I did. My sister's husband looked at her, confused. Wait, what accounts? Her face turned pale. I saw the flicker of panic bloom behind her eyes. Yeah, I said. Maybe someone should have told you. Guess who's been dipping into the family trust behind your back? Be quiet, Emily, she hissed. No, I said, calm and deadly, you be quiet. The room was no longer laughing, and I was just getting started. Dad's hand hovered over the envelope like it was radioactive. His jaw clenched, but he didn't open it, because deep down he knew. He always knows when he's caught. You're making a mistake, he said through gritted teeth. This isn't how families solve problems. No, I replied, ice cold. This is how men solve problems when their family treats their child like garbage. I turned to Emily. Let's talk about that emergency withdrawal from Max's college fund. You told the bank you had my authorization. She froze. I needed it for Ellie's therapy. No, you needed it for your Bali yoga retreat. You posted the whole thing on Instagram, healing my inner child on the beach. Cute caption, paid for by my actual child's education. Her husband shot up from the couch. Wait, you took money from Max's account? She tried to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. $200 gone. You forged my signature and claimed it was approved. I have the bank report. The teller even remembered you smiled the whole time. You're overreacting, she barked, her voice cracking. It's not like I drained it. You stole from my kid. Don't stand there and act like it was a misunderstanding. Now Mom tried to step in, eyes glistening with manufactured tears. This is getting out of hand. No, Mom, I said. What's out of hand is the fact that Dad has been using Max's social security number to open credit lines since he was 5. The silence was deafening. Even Emily sat down. My mother looked at my father. What is he talking about? I dropped a manila folder on the table, 3 credit cards, all with small limits, all maxed, all opened under Max's name with his SSN and your address. Dad's face went ghost white. You can't prove that. Already did. The bank was very helpful when they realized it was a minor's identity being used. You're going to get a nice letter soon, might want to clear your schedule. I raised you, he said, low and shaky, and I trusted you. I snapped back, but you used my son to protect your pathetic credit score. You played grandfather of the year while financially strangling a 9-year-old. Mom sat down hard in her chair. You've gone too far. No, I said, voice like steel. You all did. Years of silent dinners where I was the butt of the joke. Years of being not as smart as Emily or not as charming as Dad. Years of paying for Christmas gifts you took credit for covering. Paying your property taxes just so you could go on cruises. I turned to everyone. And I did everything, not because you deserved it, but because I hoped, just once, you'd see me, you'd look at Max and think, he's better than we were. But instead, you pulled him into the same toxic spiral I grew up in. Dad finally exploded. You selfish, bitter little man. You want to destroy this family because of a stupid rock in a box? I laughed, feral, unhinged. No, I'm destroying the illusion. This family was broken a long time ago. I'm just turning the lights on. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing now? Mom asked, already panicking. Sending a copy of this folder to the attorney I hired last week, also CCing the fraud division of the bank. Oh, and Child Protective Services, just in case someone needs to ask why my kid's identity was being exploited. Emily shot up again. You're insane. I looked right at her. No, I'm just done. Max stood next to me now, the real iPhone in his hand, still unopened. He reached up and took my hand. Can we go, Dad? God, I almost broke. His voice was so calm, so trusting. I nodded. As we walked to the door, Dad's voice rang out, desperate now. If you walk out of here, don't come back. I stopped, turned around. You already made the choice the second you laughed at my son. Then I looked at Emily, her husband, my mother. I'm not your punching bag, I'm not your backup wallet, and I'm not your scapegoat, I'm his father, and that's the only title I care about. We left, the door shutting behind us with a dull thud, the silence inside that house probably still ringing. But out in the driveway, under the cold gray sky, my son looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. I'm glad you're my dad. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. The very next morning, I got a text from my sister, "You went too far, Dad's furious, Mom hasn't stopped crying." I didn't reply. By noon, my inbox pinged. It was Detective Amanda Ross with the Financial Crimes Division. "Mr. Turner, we'd like to schedule a formal statement regarding the identity theft of your son." Boom. They thought I'd simmer down, they thought I'd let it slide, but no, this time, I wasn't swallowing the pain, I was turning it into ammunition. Within 48 hours, I'd filed a police report, submitted every document I had, bank statements tied to Max's SSN, screenshots of Emily's forged withdrawal, video footage from the birthday party showing exactly what happened when my father humiliated him. They laughed at a child, they stole from him, now we were going to court. The family's silence lasted about a week, then Mom called. I let it go to voicemail, her words tumbled out, frantic, "Honey, please, let's just fix this internally. Family doesn't go to court over mistakes. Your father's not well, Emily's a mess, just come over, let's talk." I didn't even finish listening. That Sunday, I got a formal letter from Dad's lawyer threatening to countersue for defamation of character. The audacity almost made me laugh. You can't defame someone who just handed a rock to his grandson and told him he wasn't good enough. I called my own lawyer immediately. He said, "We have enough evidence to crush them in open court." Crush was an understatement. The trial was scheduled for mid-June in civil court: fraud, identity theft, misuse of a minor's information, but I wasn't just after justice, I wanted the truth on public record. Day 1, packed courtroom. Emily looked like a ghost. Dad showed up in his best blazer, still trying to control the narrative with forced calm. Mom wore sunglasses indoors, classic drama. Their lawyer tried to paint it as a family misunderstanding. "Mr. Turner," he said with a smile, "don't you think this has gone too far?" I leaned forward, my voice clear and cold. My son's name and future were used like currency by people who laughed in his face. "You're right, it has gone too far, that's why I'm here." The judge nodded. "Let's proceed." Day 2, my lawyer presented the financial evidence. Day 3, the banker who handled the forged withdrawal testified. Day 4, surveillance footage showed Emily entering the bank, signing my name, smiling. She tried to claim verbal permission. I had audio proving otherwise. She folded on the stand, tears streaming, but the judge wasn't impressed. Then came Dad's moment under oath. "Did you open credit cards using your grandson's information?" He hesitated. "I don't recall." Wrong answer. The bank had already confirmed his number was used during verification calls. His signature matched. His address was on file. Then I dropped the bombshell, a recorded voicemail he'd left me just 3 weeks earlier. "It's just some cards, for God's sake. He's a kid, he's not going to use the credit. What's the big deal?" The courtroom was silent. Even Mom looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. The ruling. Emily was ordered to repay $2,200 to Max's college fund, plus fines. Dad was fined and placed under investigation for elder fraud on top of identity theft. The judge recommended the case be forwarded to the DA. I was awarded $25,000 in damages, but more importantly, Max's credit was sealed, he was safe, and the courtroom saw who my family really was. As we walked out, Emily chased me down the courthouse steps. "You've destroyed this family," she hissed. "Do you realize what you've done?" I turned to her, calm, still powerful. "No, you destroyed it. I just exposed the rubble." She didn't respond, just stood there blinking. Max looked up at me. "Are we done, Dad?" I smiled, almost. "One last thing." I took him to the Apple store that night and let him pick out his own AirPods and a case. "It's not about the stuff," he whispered as we walked out. "I know," I said, putting my arm around him. "It's about respect." He called me a loser. Now they call me the only one who could save them. 3 months later, I thought it would be quiet, peaceful, a new beginning. I was wrong. At first, things were calm. I focused on Max, on building a real life. I set up a new college fund under lock and key, took him to Aikido, started reading with him every night. He laughed more, slept better. The tension in his shoulders, the one I knew all too well from my own childhood, was gone. But ghosts have a way of clawing back. The first crack came from my mother. She called at 6 a.m. I saw her name flash on my screen and immediately knew something was wrong. "Your father's in the hospital," she said, voice trembling. "He had a heart attack and needs a procedure. We can't afford it. The court took too much. Please, he's asking for you and Max." I said nothing. A week later, I received a letter from my aunt, one of the few relatives who'd stayed out of the mess. Inside was a clipping from the local newspaper. Longtime councilman Richard Turner hospitalized after cardiac complications. Family now struggling financially after recent legal issues. Below was a GoFundMe link. Goal, $40,000. Raised, $3,200. Top comment, hope the son finds it in his heart to forgive. Donation from Emily Turner, $10. Pathetic. Days later, an unknown number called. It was Dad. I didn't plan to answer, I admitted, but curiosity, or maybe closure. "Hey, son," he said. His voice was frail and broken. "I don't sleep anymore. I think about it, about what I did to Max, the rock, the way I looked in his eyes. I thought I was being funny. Turns out, I was being cruel, just like I've always been." Silence. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but if you ever showed up, I know it's not over. Maybe I still have a chance." I breathed. Max had made a custom phone case at school. "It says, 'Only good boys get toys.'" "That's good," he said. A week later, I found myself in the old neighborhood, the same strip mall where we'd once gathered for Max's infamous birthday prank. I saw them, my family, Dad in a wheelchair, Mom beside him, Emily handing out flyers. "Help Richard Turner, family matters most." I watched from across the parking lot. Emily noticed me first, her smile flickered. "You came," she said, jogging toward me. "I knew you weren't as cold as you pretended." I said nothing. "We were wrong, all of us, but we're still family," she insisted. "No," I said. "We were a cult, where love was conditional and money was currency. Now the god you worshipped, status, control, image, has failed." She blinked, stunned. "This isn't about money." "Then why does your flyer have a QR code and not an apology?" She flinched. I turned and walked to the car. Max was in the passenger seat, watching. When Emily spotted him, she raised her hand to wave. He didn't wave back, didn't even blink, just looked at her like she was a stranger. That was the moment I realized Max had learned faster than I ever did. We drove off. In the rearview mirror, I saw Dad trying to stand, his hand reaching out as if he could pull me back in time. But I was already gone. That night, Max and I sat in our tiny living room with popcorn and a movie. "Do you miss them?" I asked. He thought for a second. "I miss who they could have been," he said, "but I'm glad I've got you." I felt a lump in my throat. He rested his head on my shoulder. I put my arm around him and closed my eyes. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the disappointment, the failure, the loser. I was the dad who showed up, the one who said enough, the one who finally broke the cycle. I didn't lose my family. I built a new one.